The chair will call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Education of Community Unit School District 201, today, Tuesday, June 15th, 2010. Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey? Here. Mr. Charleston?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Ms. Kelly?
Here.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
If we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're going to start with our student recognition. Mr. Carr? Fiala?
This year we had a young man go down to the ISA track finals. It was the first time that we had somebody go down to the spring track finals for the state program. Tim Dahl competed in two events. The first was a 100-meter dash. Remember, at the preliminary, there's 48 young athletes there for the prelim. So you've got to get through heats for 48 runners. Tim went down to the semis with 16 runners and then made it to the finals. And it was during a pretty tough heat, real close heat for him. And he finished 8th with a time of 11.6. And in the 200-meter dash, again, the prelim, 48 students came down to the finals. He was 10th for the 200-meter dash with 24.12. One of the things that I heard from Coach Hurley, and Leanne's here today, so if she could just stand up and be recognized for a good job. Thank you, Leanne. Tim is quite the competitor. He is a bright young man, and I want to take this opportunity now. I'm going to watch you in high school, Tim, because we've had this conversation before. And I think he is somebody that I want to see when he leaves Westmont High School to use his intelligence and leadership capabilities to really make a name for himself in the school, and not only further his own achievements in the next 4 years, but I think he can really bring a lot of kids with him in a very positive direction. So Mr. Dahl, I'm challenging you right now to make the Panthers very proud of you when you get to the high school. So congratulations, you did an awesome job. If you could stand up, please, and come up and...
Mr. Carr.
Well, it seems like we do this almost every year, and it's a nice thing to keep repeating. This year, Westmont High School Sentinel track team had 9 young men and 3 young ladies represent us at the state track meet. Our track program has been exemplary for a long time, and it really is my honor and privilege to present several of them who could be here this evening. I'm going to start with our young ladies who are state qualifiers, and we have one in the audience this evening, if my vision helps me out. Sarah, if you could, Sarah Berry, why don't you come on up here? Sarah is familiar to you, I'm sure. She is also one of our cross-country state representatives this year, and in the years past, she's a sophomore and just a tremendous performer. You don't have to sit there and spin around. It's not the intent to put you in the most embarrassing position possible. But don't sit down either. No. It's necessary to recognize that 2 other young ladies went with Sarah to the state meet, Kate Arndt and Marta Coolidge. So tremendous year for our girls track team. It was a smaller group for us, but to have 3 of that team represent us at the state meet is really an impressive feat. On the boys team, we had 9 of our young men. Thank you, Sarah. 9 of our young men went to the state meet, And we have two of them in the audience today, Taha Taibali and Kevin Barnacle. We've had powerful track teams for quite some time, and Taha is a first-timer here for the track team, but Kevin's been here a number of times. Kevin's been here with cross-country for several years and for the track team for several years. Really, they represent us very well at the in-state competition. Along with these guys, Henry Arndt, Eric Davis, Scott Dvorak, Ray Honore, Morris Jaspers, Cameron Lowe, and Pat Robertson also went to the state meet. And we can bring 9 kids down there. This was our, I think, points-wise, our best performance in state in nearly 10 years, just because we brought such a large number of kids and they played so well. So Coach Wolf and Coach Kaplan and the rest of their staff are extremely pleased with both the boys and girls this year. So it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes. We have quite a few tonight. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the April 27, 2010 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the April 27, 2010 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented in your orange folder.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, May 4th. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 4th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the May 4th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. May 11th. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 11th, 2010 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the May 11th, 2010 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 19th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the May 19th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May 20th. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 20th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the May 20th, 2010 special meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay. The next item is the public hearing on the 2009-2010 tentative amended budget. The President of the Board of Education calls the public hearing to order regarding the proposed amended 2009-2010 budget. Are there any additional comments from members of the Board of Education regarding the proposed amended budget? Are there any public comments concerning the proposed amended 2009-2010 budget? Okay. Then I will declare the public hearing on the proposed amended 2009-2010 budget closed. Okay, are there any public comments? Okay, then we will move to the appointment of the interim superintendent and approval of one-year contract. And I will ask if the board would like to have a brief closed session to discuss this. Short 10-minute break.
Yes.
Yes?
Sure, let's
Okay.
go.
Okay, we're going to take
Need a motion?
motion to go to closed session
So moved.
regarding personnel issues.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second? Okay. Meeting is adjourned for a brief closed
We
session.
need a roll call on a closed?
Roll call.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
We will be out very shortly. If everyone could please take their seats. We are back from our brief closed session. And we don't have to do a roll call. Go back. Okay, the next item is the appointment of the interim superintendent and approval of one-year contract. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Kevin M. Carey as interim superintendent of Community Unit School District 201 and the approval of a one-year contract as presented.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of business manager. Are there any comments?
I have a few comments, and I just want to say that my comments aren't directed towards any specific candidate for the business manager position, and I've pretty much shared my comments with the board, but I felt I should say something to the public, and that is just that I wasn't completely satisfied with the process for filling the vacancy, and although the business manager reports to the superintendent, the business manager is an important participant at board meetings and regularly interacts with board members outside of our meetings. I believe the board should have opted to be more involved in this selection process beyond just the final vote. Basing a final decision only on the recommendation of outgoing administration is not what I believe to be solid decision-making, and I feel taxpayers in our community would share that opinion. Given the intersecting timelines of the hiring of an interim superintendent and a business manager, I think the board should have considered some or a certain level of input from incoming leadership. Not being provided the names of the candidates much in advance of the meeting provided no opportunity for the board members to perform any amount of background research concerning the candidates, and I will consider these concerns in my vote. So.
Any other comments?
I would just like to respond by saying that our current business manager went and did what the collective board directed her to do, and we directed her based on her outstanding past performance and our trust in her abilities to be able to do this task. And I reiterate that we gave her this task to do. So I'm a little bit disappointed at your response at this point.
Well, I felt, if you don't agree with the process, I agree with this notion that we as board members are supposed to, once we decide something officially, support the decision that gets made. But we haven't really decided anything to this point. We're still in the process of, and those were my comments on the process. And so.
Yeah, I understand that.
I understand the directions that were given by a majority of the board.
I understand that, but I am, again, I just want to state that I am disappointed that you are publicly basically saying that you did not trust Maureen's ability to do a process that the board collectively directed her to do. And I really find that quite embarrassing.
Oh, sorry you feel that way. I felt the need to let the public know my thoughts on the topic.
Well, and I feel it important to let the public know publicly how I feel.
I'd like to add to that, too, that I agree that once the board has voted and that the board speaks as a consensus, but there was no vote taken on this, so I'd like to clarify that. I would also like to say that I disapprove of the way that this process has happened. And I also, I don't believe that anybody should be able to hire their replacement. And again, this was not a board vote, so we did not, there were discussions on it. And again, my thought was that I thought that the board was going to be given a couple of candidates to look at. Instead, at 1 o'clock today, just today, we were given the resume of the person that is being put forth as the new business manager. Again, I have nothing against the person involved. I just, again, I don't agree with the process. And I can't condone this as a process.
Well, you know, there have been numerous times when we as a board have not come to a 7-0 consensus on how to proceed. Many times. And I have to say that it would be incredibly dysfunctional, and we would be spinning our wheels all the time if every time it happened that the board gave direction about something, the people who were not in the majority of the vote came back to kind of redo things or rehash it or re-explain things or state their position. Because even though there wasn't a vote, I mean, the board is supposed to speak with one voice. And again, if we all decided to do that every time we lost a vote, it would be incredibly embarrassing. So I think, you know, we all need to try to uphold the, you know, the motto that we're told all the time about the board speaking with one voice, and to move forward unified when a decision is made, regardless of a vote, because we give direction all the time. That is what the board does. So, you know, if we're all out in public going, well, yeah, this is what the board decided, but I really thought, you know, I could see that being fairly disastrous.
Especially if it's a negative opinion. And the other thing that I would like to state is that it's very undermining of our administration if we do not support the work that they do. And I feel that we have very competent staff, and that we do need to, once we task them with a direction that we give them, or a directive, we let them do what they're very well equipped to do, and trust their recommendation. We are not equipped to do their jobs. That's why they're there.
I would agree in normal situations, I would absolutely agree with that. But we have a unique situation here. We have a superintendent and a business manager who have resigned, and we have entrusted them to replace this position. I'm just stating that, and I'm
Well, and
willing to.
Maureen has done an outstanding and excellent job all the while that she has been here. She has done nothing. Her
I'm not-
integrity is
I'm not
is
challenging
excellent.
her integrity.
Well, what I'm saying is there is no reason why we would ever think that any person that she's bringing to our recommendation would be not a good recommendation. She has done nothing in the past to ever make us think that. So, you know, why we're questioning her work now at this point, and we gave her the directive to do this. So I find it extremely embarrassing that we're even having this conversation.
I will once again reiterate, and I will say this with all due respect, I have no problem at all with Ms. Jones' integrity. That's not my point. And I would like that to be very clear. That's not my point at all. I'm saying, I've said what I'm going to say. Any other comments? The chair will entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Kimberly S. Anderson as Business Manager of Community Unit School District 201 and the approval of a one-year contract as presented.
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Present.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Tarleton?
Abstain.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
The next item is the consent agenda. You will notice in your orange folders that there is, under personnel recommendations, employment of staff, approving 2 part-time social workers. They're in your orange folder. Are there any comments on, also in number 6, the adoption of the 2010-2011 routine business office resolutions? You'll notice that are blank spaces for the name of the interim superintendent and the business manager, but they will now be added after tonight. So are there any questions on the consent agenda?
On item 4, the South School lease, I wanted to suggest for other board members that we include, it's a 3-year lease. I wanted to suggest that we include a provision allowing us to terminate the lease at the 2nd anniversary with written notice, prior to December 1 of the, I guess it would be the prior year. So primarily as a matter of flexibility, obviously we're undertaking a series of fairly important facilities-oriented conversations. I don't know that it's a necessary event, but having the flexibility, I think, is important to the district.
I'm okay with that.
Anybody have a comment on that? No? Okay.
So we're going to just redo that and put it on another meeting, or?
No, just to approve the lease as amended.
Okay.
We can do that.
Are we all in agreement on following Dan's suggestion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. Personnel recommendations, renewal of student accident insurance, renewal of self-workman's compensation insurance, approval of South School lease as amended, approval of student tour request, adoption of 2010-2011 routine business office resolutions, adoption of prevailing wage rates resolution, and the ratification of regular payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Next item is superintendent's report.
As you're aware, the state funding situation still hasn't been completely dealt with, and there's no real final resolution on what we are or are not going to get from the state. At the LEND meeting last Thursday, Maureen got fairly detailed information, at least from their crystal ball, as far as what they anticipate getting. And we foresee that, realistically, we're going to probably get our general state aid based on this year's level, though it may be prorated to some point. We also anticipate that the categorical payments we would normally have to have by the end of August probably won't get to us now until December. The state made some changes to legislation in order to allow them to further delay those payments to deal with their cash flow issues. So as we know more, we'll let you know. Tied to that, and I think it's very important at this point in time, that historically I've gone to the LEND meetings to represent the district. So the board is going to need to appoint someone else to attend the LEND meetings in the future. They tend to be 7 a.m. on, I believe, Friday mornings now usually, though the date sometimes changes. They've been other days of the week, but they tried for a while at least to have them as Friday mornings. So that's something the board's going to have to work forward on. on the future.
When is the next meeting?
I do not know at this point in time. So
Do
they
we
had their
want-
last meeting for the spring, so they'll have another meeting in the fall. In September, I would assume, will be their first meeting.
I mean, I would suspect that, we'll let the interim superintendent and new business manager talk about that, but I think the new business manager lives in that general direction.
She does.
So it would seem like she would be a logical choice.
She might be an earlier riser than our current business manager. Well, he can't be a later riser.
Go to them anyway, they're in Glen.
Exactly. So, as I said, the transition issue is that I worked out with District 89 to get Maureen available a few days in July to come back and work transition with whoever the new business manager is now, Ms. Anderson. And actually, it'll be 2.5 days, I believe, is what it'll end up being. And then just sort of an update where we are with the compliance review. And then, again, there's some desire for, to modify the cell tower leases that exist, but because they're fairly longer-term issues that I felt that would be best dealt with by your new administrative team.
Just out of curiosity, are those leases coming up?
No. Basically, they're 15-year leases. They're 5-year leases, but they have unilateral right to renew them.
Rights to extend.
Yeah, so it's basically the issue of whether we want more money up front, for
So
instance.
are
There are a
we-
couple of different options out there.
Are we coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the
Yes.
lease? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's it, except in your orange folder, you will see one article from Ed Week, I think last week's Ed Week, dealing with educational funding. And, the fact that at least that writer really thinks that, as in many cases, there's lots of drama about, okay, there's going to be, some financial concerns and the districts aren't going to have monies. And then in the end, either, the ARRA funds or other funds show up to in the end, save our bacon, so to speak. They really don't think that's going to happen this time. The other thing is that the grant that we did for thermal energy efficiency in September, if you remember, actually with Kim Anderson. She's the one who did that work. We heard from the state today that they wanted to know, why we hadn't responded to the grant. Well, in fact, they hadn't sent it to us. So they found out they had a typo in the email they sent to the district, so it didn't come to us. So that paperwork just showed up and will have to be turned around fairly quickly. But remember, that grant originally was supposed to give us, I believe, $45,000 towards some energy efficiency projects in the facilities program. And right now, I think they've prorated to $31,000, if I remember correctly. So again, we'd have to spend some money to get that money, but it may be things that we wish to do. So we will, again, make sure that, excuse me, as Maureen and I exit, that we make sure the new administrative team is aware of everything there and knows what they need to do. That's it.
I'm actually just taking a look at this now, and it's talking in here about the Harkins bill. And I wondered if we have, is there any update on that,
What-
other than this, that you can provide to us?
We haven't heard anything officially. The rumor is that it's pretty much dead at this time at the federal government, but we haven't actually gotten anything officially from the LEND meeting. In fact, at the last LEND meeting, they didn't even speak to it. So,
It's my understanding that original $23 billion bill is dead.
that's what I just said.
They
But I
pulled
haven't
it
heard
off of
officially.
some other appropriations bill, but over the weekend was another proposal for teachers, firefighters, police, that was just talked about at the federal level. So, I mean, realistically, if they're just talking about something now, I can't see where something's going to happen before school, starts up again in August, with how fast the federal government works. I mean, it's all talk at this point. There's not even anything on the table, I don't believe.
Well, I guess I would ask then, are we still, as a board, comfortable waiting till July or August to talk about bringing back our teachers that are still RIFT? If this money is all dead, this is what our last discussion at I think our last meeting was about. Is there any point of waiting for this money? We talked about tabling the discussion.
Yeah, technically, I don't know how we do it without having, a list of, an appropriate list of names and a motion in front of us as an administrative item. But having said that, if it's dead, and additionally, we talked at the last meeting about bringing it back regardless of the status at the July 15th meeting. And I don't think any of the things we said back then are any different than now. I don't know how we do it tonight.
I would just, I'm sure everyone saw it, but just, if you didn't read real close, the letters of resignation, I think there's some comments in there pertinent to this issue, and I think if you haven't read it, carefully go back and just revisit that.
Yeah, I saw that in my board packet too, and again, is there, it's not on our agenda, but is there anything that would prevent us from addressing this issue today as opposed to waiting till July 15th? Because we have now lost one staff member. Is there any downside to doing that?
What, do you want to hire people back tonight?
I'm asking if, Dan brought up a question about we don't have a
We're not prepared
list.
to do that. We don't have seniority list. We don't know which positions are full. I don't think Maureen is ready to do that with the support staff, and I'm clearly not ready to do that with the certified staff because we were told that that was going to be put off until July.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
No?
Okay, board reports?
I hate to ask this question, but I'm not going to ask it.
Okay.
A board report, I just want to talk just briefly about a presentation that was given to the SACID board. Just kind of interesting. They had a committee that they put together to study and develop a more standardized method for determining a student's need for a one-to-one aid, to try and provide some standardization to that process. And by the way, they like to refer to one-to-one aids as, I think it was, independence facilitators now, because that's really the goal of a one-to-one aid for a student, is to promote that independence, that at some point they won't need that extra assistance in the classroom. Anyhow, this committee was assembled to make this process less random. It's kind of a hodgepodge of, well, does a student need an aid, do they not? And there doesn't seem to be a lot of standards in the process. And so their study reviewed the types of reasons for one-to-one aids, including behavior and academic performance, safety, and personal independence. And then what came out of that committee was the development of a form that could be used as a screening and diagnostic tool to analyze patterns of behaviors for students, and a tool to monitor progress and to document a student's progress once a one-to-one plan is initiated, and then a tool to document the outcomes and the accountabilities of that process, who's responsible for what. And they developed this form, and then they put it out to several administrators and staff members to actually give it a try and then get feedback on the form. And there were some, they shared some of the positive and the negative feedback that they got. And one of the positive things that they thought this form could do is it would help kind of standardize this process for all the member districts, so that all districts would be using the same type of documentation and form. So that would help a student, say, who was transitioning from Westmont to a SACID program, or from a SACID program back to Westmont or another member district, just to provide some standardization. And one of the negative things that they thought is that the form still lacked those specific details that you might need to assess a student's independence. as far as things that get tracked, things that get tallied to assess that. They thought the form could use some more of that. So I think the committee at SASSET's going to continue to work on that form, and then at some point, hopefully they will share it with member districts and provide some standardization to that process.
Thank you. Any other board committees? Okay, then, finance. Maureen?
Attachment H1 is approval, adopt the 2009-10 amended budget. After having a brief conversation with Ms. Hosages today, I would recommend that you don't adopt the budget. Reason being is that the advertisement didn't make it to the paper until May 19th, so we haven't had 30 days in between the ad in the paper and today's hearing. I don't think it's going to be a major deal if you don't adopt the budget, because by the time I was done shaking out all the numbers, it wasn't a huge difference between the original budget that was adopted back last September. So just to play it safe, I'm going to recommend you don't adopt the budget. So
We can do that like at the next meeting.
No.
I don't believe you can
You
do it in the
don't-
next meeting either because of the,
You have to give 30 days notice prior to the budget, so you have to put it on display, and you'd have to give notice prior to that meeting, and so
Prior
you'd
to
have
the
to
time.
also give do the adoption of the amended budget prior to June 30th. And so you can't do that time frame within. But again, we've normally just adopted the amended budget, so things are tidy for the auditor. There's no necessary purpose to do it. And many auditors will tell you it's not really worth the effort of doing it. So that's what our recommendation therefore is, to not approve it at this point in time, just to not act.
So, if we don't approve it, then.
the budget that was on display last September just remains.
Right.
The budget on display last, okay.
So you were saying the numbers were pretty close from?
They were pretty close, just different areas had increases and decreases, but in order to avoid any possibility of any tax objections, I just suggest you don't adopt it.
Okay. Any comments? Okay.
Go through the rest of the financials.
Did you have anything else? Dan?
No, not really. The only other thing to take a look at is attachment H3, which is the fund balance summary. Again, you've got a negative fund balance in the insurance fund. We're anticipating a check back from the excess carrier for about $170,000, so that number will be in the positive again, hopefully next month. Strangely enough, we also have a negative balance in the transportation fund. This is a direct reflection of the fact that we haven't gotten funding from the state yet. So had we received the normal state payments in the months that we normally receive them, this would have been a positive balance. So we got our tax revenues in for the month of June, though, so we'll be fine at June 30th.
So as of May 31st, our low point,
Yep.
we have approximately $3 million in operating funds.
Okay, anything else, Maureen, before the expense report? You were on H3?
Yeah. No.
Then the June 2010 expense report, are there any questions? Then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the bills for the month of June 2010 as presented in attachment H5 in the amount of $519,768.93.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Did you want to talk about the interfund transfers?
H6 is a few different transfers. The majority of them, in the format you're used to seeing them that was provided to us by Franzik, and are for the transfer of interest from Bond and Interest Fund, it's now called the Debt Service Fund, and the Transportation Fund over to Operations and Maintenance, because that was our fund in most need. The new one that you see in here, I got from Mrs. Hodges, her staff, and it reflects the loan of working cash monies over to the Education Fund that will eventually wind up in the Capital Projects Fund to fund those projects that we did last summer. Part of what we talked about in the last few months was the change in the way that those transfers were being allowed to be done. I think it was House Bill 6041. It still has not been decided upon yet. So those transfers right now, we're recommending that we do a loan, and then in July, we'll go ahead and we'll make the transfers permanent. Okay? It's just a timing thing right now. We needed 30 days to do a transfer a specific way. Now we're going to do it the way that we think will be okay through the new law, okay? So we'll do this in June, and then in July, we'll do another one, which is different than what you've been used to seeing.
It's called a loan, but it's going to be a transfer?
It'll be a permanent transfer next month. It's just a loan this month, in order to close the books out clean without a negative balance at the end of June.
Is there interest on the loan at all?
No.
Or no?
No.
Okay. So this 761,000
That was the
is
amount of the projects that were funded out of the capital
the
projects
projects
fund.
that are listed here.
Basically, the negative fund balance you see.
Any questions? Then the chair will entertain a motion to approve the 2009-2010 interfund transfers as presented in attachment number H6.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Okay, are there any other public comments?
I'm just going to take a minute and thank Steve and Maureen. I wish them the very best personally and great success professionally as they move on. I don't think it'd be fair if I didn't note that they leave our district as a better, more focused, and more engaged and higher-performing district than when they arrived. During their tenure, our district moved forward in terms of technology, forward in terms of curriculum, forward in terms of financial reporting and financial management, and forward in terms of student achievement. Regardless of controversies, one cannot argue that their contributions and leaderships have been meaningful and lasting. There are still miles to go before we sleep as frost penned, but there is no question that we have come many, many miles already. And so to both of you, thank you for your service to 201, and Godspeed as you continue to move forward.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining and personnel issues.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Casey?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Charleston?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mrs. Lubeck?
Yes.
And I do not believe we have a vote.